Oops, let me pause. Vamos a grabar aquí y muy buenos días, buenos días. ¿Cómo están todos?
Muy
¿Bien?
bien.
Muy bien.
Ok, vale, bueno, feliz lunes. Happy Monday. Excelente. Vamos a practicar. We're gonna get our feet wet. Actually, I'm gonna play something as a little inspiration for you for getting our feet wet. We had a little guessing game thing, which we're gonna continue, and I'm gonna play a little snippet of information that helps you understand why we sometimes do stuff like this. What's the purpose of doing that? Our purpose today is going to be to practice and to practice with easy stuff. Para que sepan, so that you know, para que sepan. But let's listen to this just so that we get kind of a framework of what's going on. And I'm not going to play this whole video, just a portion of it. And you see the little subs. Everyone warms up before diving straight into something.
Warms up before diving straight into something. Warming up is an essential part of any performance, and it's crucial in conversation. Now, what exactly is a warm-up game? And why is it important if you want to speak Spanish? A warm-up game is an activity designed to prepare you mentally and linguistically for the task ahead. It helps to loosen up your tone, activate your vocabulary, and get you comfortable with expressing yourself in Spanish before jumping into a full conversation. By warming up with games, you can let go of some of the anxiety and hesitation often linked to the speaking, especially in a second language, allowing you to communicate more confidently and fluently. So, guess what? It's a simple improv game where you just need to describe an object.
So this is what we did, but I'm going to show like the little demo and the demo of things you should use when we play the game next as our warm-up. We are going to do little questions I left for you at the end of our little picture, our little file I sent with the pictures from last week. But before we go straight into that, which is a bit harder, we're going to do the improv game. And she's going to show how she runs this with a, well, in this case, it's a one-on-one.
And your partner ask questions to gather information and try to guess what the object is. Let's take a look at how I play with one of my students. Okay, so now we're gonna watch Jessie and I playing this game. The only rules that we have for these games are asking a lot, ¿cómo se dice en qué significa?
And here's something I want you to think about incorporating when we play this as a warm-up game. Build in when you don't know how to say something, you want to frame a question, but you don't know what the word is in Spanish. Instead of saying, I don't know how to say, preface it with, ¿cómo se dice? How does one say? ¿Cómo se dice? Oh, ¿qué significa? What does it mean? Okay. And you'll hear her bleeding this in. So if, por ejemplo, if I wanted to say, maybe I know how to ask, es importante el color? Is the color important for this thing, I'm guessing? And you know how to say that. But then you want to say something like, is it used outside? And you don't remember how to say outside. Okay, instead of saying in English, outside, how do you say outside? ¿Cómo se dice outside? ¿Cómo se dice outside? How do you say outside? Right? And then it's easy for me to just come back with afuera, afuera. See? Se usa afuera, se usa afuera. It's used outside. Okay? See? Bien? Vale. Okay, so let's see how she played this little game. And the kinds of questions, because sometimes it helps us hear the kinds of questions somebody asks in said game.
To increase our chances for gaining new vocabulary, and to be as descriptive as possible in order to give an idea about what word we could be talking about, and the partner needs to ask a lot of questions, yeah? So let's see how we do it.
Esta cosa es pequeño y, ¿cómo se dice fits?
Entra.
Entra en la mano.
Ah, sí.
Y-
Es pequeño y entra en la mano.
No tan pequeño, pero es posible, ¿cómo se dice hold?
Sostener.
A sostener esta cosa en la mano.
Ok.
Esta cosa es
Cerámica.
cerámica y adentro está
Líquido.
líquido.
A ver. Y este líquido dentro
Ujú.
de esta cosa, ¿este líquido es caliente o frío?
Es caliente,
Caliente. Ok. ¿Y este líquido es oscuro o claro?
oscuro.
Ajá. ¿Y esta cosa la agarras así o metes los dedos?
Meto los dedos.
Ah, metes los dedos, ok. Pero es pequeña.
Es pequeña, sí. Sí. Sí, un poco pequeña. Es
Un poco pequeña. ¿Y es duro?
Sí.
Ok.
Muy duro.
Muy duro, ok.
Mm,
Un poco, ok. ¿Y se puede romper?
Sí, es posible.
Ok.
Se puede romper. Can it break? Se puede. Can it? You might want to jot down a little note. Se puede. Can it? See? Se puede usar. Can you use it? And then, a question tagged on to that. Se puede usar afuera. Can it be used outside? For example, okay, I'm going to let her finish this little bit of the guessing game and you'll recognize it, but this is just give you the framework again.
¿Y tienes en casa de esta cosa?
Muchas, sí.
Muchas.
Sí.
¿Y yo tengo en casa?
Sí.
Yo tengo, do I have one? Aha. Another verb you may want to use in your question, in the questions you keep in your hip pocket. Yo tengo, I have one. Okay.
¿Y lo puedo meter en el microondas?
Sí, es posible.
Okay.
Lo puedo meter. Can I put it? Lo puedo meter en el microondas. Can I put it in the microwave?
Puedo. Es una taza.
Perfecto.
Es una taza. Okay, so there she guessed it, but she went through a number of things, and then she gave her a hint with the ceramic thing. And I'm actually going to start the guessing game with a hint because going with absolutely nothing to hang on to makes it fun. And then it becomes 1,000 questions instead of 20 questions. Okay, a ver. So we're going to use a similar warm-up to what we did last week, but that was just to show again how that runs along. Y voy a darles a ustedes una categoría. I'm going to give you guys a category. Pregúntenme, ask me questions, pregúntenme para adivinar. Ask me in order to guess. Y voy a engrandecer la pantalla aquí mucho. Okay. Bueno. Excelente. La primera cosa, hay tres. Vamos a hacer este juego. Ustedes van a preguntarme preguntas, ¿sí? Son cosas. La primera cosa, una pista para empezar, a clue to begin, una pista para empezar. La primera pista es una cosa que se usa, which is used, que se usa en casa o en una oficina, ¿sí? Es una cosa que se usa dentro, no se usa afuera, You don't use it outdoors. Okay, ¿vale? You can ask anything about where it is used, who uses it, colors, activities, all sorts of things, okay? Bueno, ¿a quién quiere empezar con una pregunta? Who wants to start with a question? Es para una actividad o tiene su propósito, it has its purpose adentro, no afuera.
I'll try.
Okay, Cindy.
Es una cosa para escribir,
Es una-
cocina.
Es una cosa para escribir. No es exactamente para escribir, pero se usa en el proceso de escribir a veces, pero no es exactamente para escribir. Buena pregunta. And these are going to be beyond yes and no questions. Sí, Marcos. Oh, you're on mute still.
Es electrónica.
Sí, es una cosa electrónica. Buena pista, good clue.
Es un computador.
Sí, se usa con la computadora, sí.
Ah,
Use it with the computer. Oh, headphones.
Tiene que ver con la computadora. It has to do with the computer. Cindy, otra pregunta.
sí. Es para escribir de una máquina, machine.
Máquina, no, porque es electrónica, sí, y tiene que ver con la computadora, pero
It's headphones.
no se
Headphones.
usa con una máquina. You don't use it with a machine. Algo mecánico, no.
Audio?
Es una parte de computadora.
Es una parte que sí, que se enchufa, that you plug in. Sí,
Audio?
que se enchufa. You plug it in.
Imprimatur.
¿Perdón?
Imprimatur. ¿Cómo se dice printer?
Oh, impresor. No, no.
Audio?
No es para imprimir. Sí, Sam, ¿tienes pregunta?
Audio.
Audio.
¿Tiene que ver con audio?
Or
No.
audio, yes. No? Okay.
Is it the charger?
Para cargar, to charge, no. No. Marcos.
Telephone.
Un ratón.
Es un ratón, sí, es un ratón,
No.
es un ratón. Un ratón es mouse.
Mouse.
Ratón es mouse, sí, es un ratón. Bien, bien, excelente. Bueno, la segunda cosa, y momentito. Ok. Vale, muy bien. La segunda cosa, ok. Esto es un objeto, se usa en muchos lugares, en muchos lugares. Pero especialmente fuera de la casa. Pero no es necesariamente algo que... es posible usar esta cosa dentro de la casa, pero es más común usar esta cosa fuera de casa. ¿Bien? En muchos lugares.
¿Esta una cosa para limpiar?
Para limpiar, no es para limpiar.
Marilyn, yo no comprendo lugares.
Lugares es places.
Oh.
Se usa en muchos lugares. Es posible, sí.
¿Son plantas?
Son plantas. No, no es una cosa que vive. It's not a living thing.
Oh.
Um,
No mine in the summer.
Esto, las sillas. Las sillas.
Lacia,
Sillas.
como smooth.
The chairs.
Oh,
Silla.
sillas. No, no son sillas, no.
Escaleras?
Otra vez, Sam, por favor.
Escalera.
Does it have steps?
Escalera.
Como en el segundo piso de...
Yes. Sí, sí. No.
Creo que no.
Okay.
No, con poca frecuencia, no, con poca frecuencia. Es posible, pero no.
Utiliza en cocinar.
Se usa para cocinar. Is it used to cook? No, no se usa para cocinar, no.
Excuse me, ¿es electrónico?
No, no es una cosa electrónica. No. Absolutamente no.
It's not electric.
Una pista.
¿Tiene ruidos?
Hace ruido. Does it make noise?
Noise.
No. No. Otra pista. Another clue. Otra pista. Es una cosa utilitaria. It's a utilitarian kind of thing. ¿Sí? No es algo como decorativo. No es para jugar.
Say una escoba?
¿Escoba?
Yes. Sí.
No, no es escoba. No. No es para limpiar, no es para cocinar. No.
¿Son ventanas?
Ventanas, no. No.
Windows, sí.
No, no es, otra pista. No es parte de una casa.
Sí.
No es una parte de la casa.
Utiliza agua.
Agua, sí, el agua, sí.
¿Cómo se dice hose? Water.
Regar, para regar. Un regadero. No.
No.
No, pero sí, absolutamente tiene que ver con el agua, sí.
Is that swimming pool?
Otra vez, Usha,
Swimming pool?
Piscina.
no te puedo oír, can't hear you too clearly.
Is it a swimming pool?
Una piscina. ¿Es una piscina? No,
¿Cómo se dice
pero sí
fountain?
tiene que ver con el agua.
¿Cómo se dice fountain?
Fuente. No, no es una fuente. Tiene que ver con el agua, sí. No es fuente, no es piscina, y no es regadero para regar plantas, no.
Baño para pájaros.
Yeah.
Para algo
Pájaros. Pájaros. Bird bath.
Baño.
para pájaros. Para los no, es para los seres humanos, es para hombres, mujeres, niños.
¿Es una cosa para jugar?
Para jugar, a veces se usa durante un juego, pero no es un instrumento que es parte del juego, ¿sabes?
Ujú.
Es posible usar durante un juego, muy posible, pero no es una parte del juego, como una raqueta de tenis, no es instrumento de un juego.
Es un balde?
Un,
Bucket? A bucket?
hay un cubo. No, no.
No.
You guys are kind of warm. Caliente, caliente. Marcos. Oh, and you're on mute, Marcos. Perdón.
Se lleva en el cuerpo.
Se lleva en el cuerpo. Normalmente no, pero tengo que decirles a ustedes que a veces hay modelos que sí es posible llevar, pero llevar como take, sí, pero llevar como ropa normalmente no.
Is that swimsuit?
Swimming suit, she said.
No. No. Ok. Otra pista.
Otra pista.
Otra pista, another clue. Otra pista. No es cubo, it's not a bucket, pero
Oh, un bote de
puede
agua.
ser como un poquito cilíndrico. Cilíndrico.
Sí.
La forma puede ser
Plantar. Esto for the plants. Plants you
para
keep.
plantas, no.
Una botella de agua.
Una botella de agua. Sí. Eso. Hay una palabra muy útil aquí, muy específica, una palabra muy específica. Se llama, es posible decir la botella, pero también es posible de llamar, sí, esta cosa, la necesito una cajita más. Cantimplora. La cantimplora. Es un poquito como canteen, quizás, ¿ok? Cantimplora. Cantimplora es water bottle, específicamente que se usa, que se lleva en casa. You fill it in your house, ¿sí? No es una botella de agua como Evian o algo así, sí, que se compra en el supermercado. La cantimplora. Cantimplora es water bottle, ¿sí? Ok, vale, bien. Ok. Tercera cosa, third thing. Es la última cosa, Ok, la primera pista. Es algo que siempre se usa fuera de casa. Siempre se usa fuera de casa. No se usa dentro de una oficina, no se usa dentro de una casa. Y es muy popular durante el verano. Es muy popular durante el verano. Y es para hombres, mujeres, niños. No es para plantas, no es para decorar la casa.
¿Es dentro o es
Se usa afuera,
fuera?
fuera de la casa. Se usa afuera. You use it outside.
Usa en su skin. ¿Cómo se dice skin?
En sus
Se dice skin.
skins?
Skin. Skin.
Skin.
Skin.
Uh, no, pero se pone en el cuerpo. Se pone, pero sí se pone en el cuerpo. En la piel, pues técnicamente sí, pero se pone en el cuerpo.
¿Cómo se dice? Air conditioner.
El aire acondicionado, no. El aire acondicionado es para adentro, ¿sí? Y esto se usa afuera, fuera de la casa.
Es utiliza
Sunscreen.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Es que
You wear the sunscreen.
crema protectora, no. No se pone, sí, está en el cuerpo, no, pero no es crema protectora como en la piel exactamente, pero sí se pone en el cuerpo. Y tiene que ver, tiene que ver otra pista, tiene que ver con el agua otra vez. ¿Tiene que ver con el agua?
Sí, es un lugar.
¿Es un lugar? No. Es una cosa. It's a thing. No es un lugar. Es una cosa, se pone en el cuerpo, es popular en el verano, tiene que ver con el agua.
A swimsuit.
Bien. ¿Cómo se dice swimsuit?
Traje de baño.
Traje de baño, sí, o a veces bañador. Bañador se usa,
Bañador.
pero
Bañadora.
traje de baño, suit of bathing suit, sí, swimsuit, bathing suit. Sí, así. Perfecto, perfecto. Bien. Bueno, ok. Entonces, adelante. A little bit of a warm up. I want to move on next to getting you guys to talking a little bit. Last week we had this little guessing game with these photos. Here are the items, and I'll actually add everything into one big file so that you'll have this all together here. So I'll add those pictures onto this set. But you have these questions, and before we're going to do one question all together and another one, I think, in some smaller groups. But before we do this, I want to talk a little bit about maybe some structures that will be helpful to set up your answers to these questions, okay? Temas para conversar. And I ask you to take a look at these. ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? What are your plans for the summer? Now, you could keep this very short and just use fragments of sentences, but it's always a good idea to get used to some full sentences. And there are many ways you can set this up, right? So I want to show you some examples of ways that we can set them up. What we want to do is kind of build a construct of giving you some simple verbs to keep in mind, when you do any kind of conversation. So we want to talk a little bit about the most common verbs that you're likely to use in conversation. The most common, the most frequently used kind of verbs that people may want to incorporate. Uy, tengo que, I've got to reverse my sizing a little bit here. Un poquito. Uy, ¿dónde? My little space disappeared here. A ver. ¿Qué pasó? I lost my ability to get that. Okay. Let's just try to kind of build this in. What are some common verbs? I just want to kind of review what common verbs are that you may want to use in Spanish. Wow, why will it not let me edit? Uy, a ver, momentito. Hang on a second. Got a little technical problem with my Zoom thing here. Let's try to refresh it. See if that, aha! Mejor, better. Okay. Who knows why things fail? Do my backdoor fix here. Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look and just kind of review some common verbs that people use all the time when speaking Spanish in everyday conversations. And the two first one, actually, I'm going to put them in a three group. Ser would be one, right? Estar would be another, right? Those are the two verbs that mean to be, right? Ser for more permanent descriptions or identifying what something is or telling where it's from. Estar for feelings, emotions, or changeable conditions, okay? And also a good verb, and I won't give it to you. This will be in the conjugated form. The verb that means there is, or also it means there are, okay? So here are three verbs that are really, really basic that you should always make sure you know how to use. So we're going to kind of look at I don't want to know that I want to call it a top 10, but frequently used verbs. Another frequently used verb is tener, to have, right? It's also used with some things we call idioms. That means special phrases that can't be translated exactly. So tener is used to possess things, to talk about when you actually own or possess something. Tener is also used with certain idioms that are not translatable, but to talk about being hungry, thirsty, cold, hot. You know, some people like to call it talking about the sensations somebody has with their body, but it kind of goes beyond that. Okay, so we've got ser, we've got estar, we've got hay, we've got tener. We've got this little chunk here, me gusta, I like to. And you can use this by adding on an infinitive, right? So you can add on an infinitive of any kind to say that you like to do something. Okay, por ejemplo, me gusta nadar, I like to swim. Me gusta leer, I like to read, etc. Okay. So there's another top item here. Another very common verb to use, and I'm going to put it in the infinitive form here, is poder. to be able, or we use this whenever we use the idea in English of can do something, meaning somebody has the ability. And again, like with me gusta plus an infinitive, you're going to use poder conjugated plus an infinitive. Okay, oops. Bien. Por ejemplo, puedo verlos. I can see you guys. Puedo usar la computadora. I can use the computer. Or to make a negative, no puedo, I can't. Así, igual. Okay, ¿vale? Bien. Another one of the very, very, very common verbs that people are going to use a lot is querer. Querer, meaning to, and also we'll use this plus an infinitive. Okay, to want to do something. So notice with me gusta, with any form of poder, any form of querer, you're going to add an infinitive, a second verb on to tell what the activity is that you like, me gusta, that you can do, puedo, that you want to do, quiero. Okay. I'm also going to put the yo form in here for these two. Poder is
Puedo.
going to use that form of puedo to talk about myself, because most of these questions were about what you like, right? Or what you're going to be doing. The yo form for querer, because again, a lot of our common verbs, sadly, are kind of irregular, is quiero. Quiero, right? Puedo, I can. Quiero, I want to, right? Me gusta, notice, doesn't end in an o like these other ones, because me gusta technically doesn't mean like. It's used in the way we would use somebody likes something, right? Me gusta says something is pleasing to me, right? And if you like an activity, if you enjoy an activity, it'll be me gusta, and then just the non-conjugated, what we call the infinitive form of the verb. You may want to incorporate some of these verbs, maybe, when you answer some of these questions. All right. We don't always answer a question with the same verb in the answer. Sometimes you mix it up and throw different things in. So let's see an example here. A ver, ¿ok? Bien. ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. Lo siento. I forgot to add one other common verb here. We're going to add one more. Ir plus an infinitive. I knew I was leaving one off. Perdón, excuse me here. Ir plus an infinitive, meaning going to do something, right? Going to do something. And the yo form for that is voy. Okay? Voy. I'm going to. And really it needs to be ir with the little word and then plus an infinitive. Voy a trabajar. I'm going to work. Voy a leer. I'm going to read. Okay? Y lo siento. Sorry about that. I forgot my other common verb. Okay. ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? Por ejemplo, for example, I could start off, mis planes son, my plans are. But usually in English, you talk about what you're going to do, right? So you could start with mis planes son. Mis planes son leer mucho, trabajar en el jardín, work in the garden. Mis planes son viajar. My plans are to travel. You might do that, but you could also instead of saying mis planes son, you can start off, you can answer that question by saying quiero trabajar en el jardín. Quiero leer más este verano. Quiero viajar. And then talk about where you're going to travel, right? You could answer that question saying me gusta and what you like to do typically, because that would be talking about your planes, see? You could lead off with voy a, I'm going to, and then add on the activities that you're going to do. So, if I were Linda, I might be saying, ¿cuáles son tus planes para el verano? Quiero tener una nueva estufa. I want to have a new stove. ¿Sí? Quiero instalar. Quiero comprar. I want to buy. Quiero comprar una nueva estufa. Quiero renovate, renovar la cocina. Quiero renovar las cosas, the things, las cosas en la cocina. Como la estufa. ¿Sí? Bien? Okay, let's try this one all together. And then I'm going to turn you loose for some smaller group work with our other questions after we do this first part all together. ¿Cuáles son tus planes para el verano? Alguien, who'd like to try this one?
I can try.
Bien. Gracias.
Yeah, but I didn't answer it correctly. Okay. No tengo planes, no viajo en verano, me gusta quedarme en mi casa.
Me gusta quedarme en casa. I like to stay at home. Quedarme is a reflexive verb. We're going to talk about that, I hope, later. Yeah. Tengo planes. I have no plans. Sí, no tengo planes. Sí. A ver. Ok. Vale. Bueno. Bien hecho. Well done. ¿Qué más? Who's got another idea for how to answer this? Algo. Bueno, Julie.
Voy a ir a Colorado en una semana.
Perfecto. Y información extra. She's got some extra information. Cuando she added on when, ¿sí? Información de cuándo. Perfecto. Gracias. Bueno, Usha and then Mark.
No especial planes, pero yo tengo una nieta 8 años, so yo quiero play with her.
Sí, quiero pasar un rato con ella. Quiero pasar un rato con ella. Bien. Okay. And this little bit of information that Usha gave us actually would use one of these tener idioms. Because this tener idiom is also used for age. Ella tiene una nieta o nieto, Usha? Nieta. Ella tiene nieta que tiene 5 años, tiene 8 años, ¿ok? La nieta tiene 8 años, is 8 years old. Tiene 8 años. En español, you are not a number for age, you have years. Así, it's just the way they express that. Vale, perfecto, perfecto. Ok, más con planes. Gracias. Sí, y Marcos.
Julio, vamos a ir a Norte California por una semana.
Excelente. Sí. A ver, ¿a las ciudades en el norte o para hacer cosas afuera en la naturaleza?
Los dos.
Los dos, both. Los dos. Perfecto. Muy bien. Excelente, excelente. A ver, ok. Vale. ¿Qué más? ¿Qué más? Any other ideas? Any other way to answer this? Cindy, sí, dime.
Sí. Mi esposo y yo vamos a Colombia para todo julio.
Ok. A Colombia. Un destino muy exótico, an exotic destination, un destino exótico. Excelente. Y bueno, ¿qué más? Any others you want to contribute?
Sam,
Bien, Sam. Dinos, tell us.
no tengo planes el Portugal en septiembre.
Oh, en Portugal, en septiembre.
Septiembre, yes. Sí.
Excelente. Septiembre. En Portugal, Portugal es un país muy popular. No cuesta mucho comparado con Londres en Inglaterra, comparado con París. París va a ser un desastre con los Juegos Olímpicos. Montones de gente. No, pero Portugal, perfecto, perfecto. Bien. Ok. A ver. So let's move on. I want to put you into some smaller groups and have you work on just these next two questions in your smaller groups in this same way. See? ¿Qué vas a hacer? What are you going to do? Now, that's not meant to be like big summer plans, just average stuff, right? I mean, it could be your big plans, but ¿qué vas a hacer? Es muy general. What are you going to do? Como hoy, like today. ¿Qué vas a hacer hoy? ¿Sí? ¿Qué vas a hacer? O la semana. ¿Qué vas a hacer esta semana? What are you going to do this week? This is meant to be more like a general, not exotic kind of travel for the summer question. ¿Qué vas a hacer? So to talk about the normal routine stuff we do. See? ¿Qué vas a hacer? And, you know, typically there, you may want to use voy a and add on an infinitive. You may just grab the verb and use that without the voy a and just use one verb instead of voy a, two verbs, right? Por ejemplo, limpio el patio. I'm going to clean up the patio. I could phrase that as voy a limpiar, I'm going to, or just limpio el patio. Take limpiar and just use that one verb by itself. Using that one verb by itself, limpio, can mean I am doing it right now, or it can be used, it can be interpreted as very near future, like I'm going to do it. So you have two ways you can structure that, right? ¿Qué vas a hacer? ¿Qué vas a hacer? Y la segunda pregunta, the second question I want you to work on with your groups is, ¿qué quieres hacer? What do you want to do? And there, probably, you will want to use that quiero verb. Quiero means it indicates one's desire. Okay. Quiero, but the second verb you will not conjugate. So I would never say quiero limpio. I clean. It'll be I want to clean. Quiero limpiar. Quiero leer. I want to read. That second verb will always be an infinitive. Okay, vale? So I want you to work on just those two, and I will send those two questions into your groups. ¿Hay alguna pregunta? Is there any kind of question about this? Lisa, sí.
Yeah, the numero uno, is that just about what we nothing special necessarily. You know, just like what we're gonna do around the house or what we're gonna do in town.
Sí, sí, exacto.
Oh,
Exacto.
okay.
Sí,
Right.
exacto. Exactly right.
Okay.
You know, it doesn't have to be something spectacular. Let's put it that way. See?
Yeah.
Bien? Okay. I think maybe about 7 minutes for this. 7 minutos, about 7 minutes. A little more than 5. Bien. Because you'll have at least 3 people in your group. And if you have one person who's maybe not participating, they might have their audio turned off for a specific reason. So, but okay, you're going to see a join button. And after you hit your join button, it'll send you into the room, and I will send those little questions in to your room also. Ooh. Is that not going in? Uy, momentito. Wow, I don't know if that's going in. I think I might have a little Zoom glitch on sending that in. Ah, there it is. There we go. Quizás nos quedan 2 minutos, maybe a couple minutes remain to us. Gonna let everybody know we have 1 more minute to go. Vale, perfecto. Aquí vienen algunos. Here come some folks back. Excelente. A
We're
ver.
back.
Okay, vale. Okay, aquí vienen los demás. Everybody else is coming back in now. People pop in at different times depending on how quickly they can tie up all those loose ends. You always get a little message at the end that says time to tie up the loose ends so that you're prepared to come back. It's not just cut. Okay. Vale, perfecto. When we come back from a little small group session like that, and I'm sorry if my screen share did not I had to fiddle with that a little bit till you saw the questions in your screen share room. Yeah, we always ask, what went well? Where did you have maybe a little hump you had to get over that was hard to do? What kind of questions do you have coming out of that? If you want to share good examples from what you did in small group or questions you had about, I didn't know how to say this.
I didn't know how to say teach yoga. I want to
Teach yoga?
Yes.
Buena pregunta. I will show you how to. Well, the yoga part is borrowed because we can't make up a word for that. It is what it is, right? Yoga. Okay. Teach yoga es como el verbo es enseñar. To teach, and it's a regular AR verb. So if I want to make it to a yo form, all I do is get rid of the AR at the end. I flop in that o ending at the end, right? Enseño yoga. Enseño yoga. Por ejemplo, enseña yoga. And what other more information could we add? Maybe you might want to say enseño yoga a adultos, to adults. Maybe you teach yoga to kids. as a, a summer out of school activity. Enseño yoga a los niños.
Yo enseño yoga to adultos or seniors over Zoom.
Ah,
Zoom.
bien, perfecto, perfecto, muy bien, me gusta. Sí, enseño. And this is a perfect example. We take that verb enseñar, enseño, and then the thing that it is that you teach. Excelente, excelente, muy bien. Otras preguntas? Any other questions you came up with? Cindy, sí.
We were questioning, how do you pronounce surgery in Spanish?
Cirugía.
Cirugía.
Cirugía. Voy a escribir la palabra aquí. I'm going to write the word down here for you. Cirugía es cirugía. Cirugía. Surgery.
Cirugía.
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 Bien.
Gracias.
De nada, ¿sí? Por ejemplo, voy a tener cirugía en la rodilla. I'm going to have surgery on my knee. Voy a tener cirugía para el hombro, for my shoulder, etcétera. ¿Ok? Bien, buena pregunta. Good question. Otra pregunta. Otra pregunta. ¿O no? ¿No? Bien. Okay, vale. We will have more questions for next week. They're going to be geared a little more towards daily kind of or weekly kind of stuff, not necessarily all big event kind of stuff like for the whole summer, but like your plans for the summer. We had a couple of questions from the video. I always want to reserve a little bit of time to answer questions that you guys might have had on the videos you listened to during the week. And one of the questions I had was, those foods that Andrea La Mexicana, the foods that she was talking about, what the heck were some of those? Some of those are not very translatable because some of them are very much, it would be like saying, translate baked Alaska, something like that. Certain recipes just are what they are. Yeah. And you can't really like rename it or say, what's the translation for that? But to have an idea of what it looks like. Bien. La pregunta, the question I had on the two foods actually was romeritos. What are those? That is something that would be very hard to reproduce really well here stateside, but romeritos is a Mexican dish. It's kind of like a stew, I want to say. And romerito refers to rosemary specifically. So it's a kind of stew, but it's in a mole sauce. And mole is very hard to reproduce here stateside because there are specific ingredients that go into mole. Mole is a sauce that is very popular in Mexico. It's kind of the best way to describe it is like chocolatey with spices, but like spices in it. Actually one of my friends that I used to work with from Mexico said, oh, you cannot make mole in the United States. You don't have the right ingredients here. Yeah. So it's one of those things. It's a national dish, romeritos. Romeritos are served a lot in during the Christmas holidays in particular.
Huh. Okay.
But it's kind of a stew.
So I have a question, Sam.
Sí.
In English. Was this one of the foods that the lady who didn't like Mexico in the video used with part of the
that is one of the foods. Sí.
Is that right?
This is one of the foods. I think she mentioned it with diciembre and with diciembre.
Yes.
Because it is traditionally often served in Mexican homes like New Year's Eve, or sorry, not Christmas Eve in particular.
Okay.
Very, very
Huh.
popular then.
Mm.
So romeritos, yeah, not to say it's not served other times of the year, but frequently. The other question I had was, what is that pan de muertos thing? Well, this would be typically what a pan de muertos might look like. Pan you get, but pan de muertos, dead bread.
Good.
Yeah, that sounds kind of strange. Pan de muertos is very popular. You will not find this all over Latin America, really, Mexico, and some parts of Central America, but not even everywhere in Central America. This is related to that celebration in Mexico called Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, which is like November 1st and 2nd. And pan de muertos is sort of a sweet bread, so it's not a plain bread. It's a little bit flavored. It's a little bit of a sweet bread, pastry-like a little bit. Pan de muertos is specifically served for Dia de Muertos. Often like they'll put part of the dough on the outside to look like kind of bones, like little straight crossed bones. And yeah, it's just kind of a goodie that is served. It is also left on the ofrendas. The ofrendas are the little altars that are set up. Dia de Muertos is a celebration really that came down from the Aztecas, the Aztecs, in wherein they believed that their deceased relatives, beloved family members, would come back from the realm of the dead once a year to see if they were remembered. So it's a celebration where you always have goodies for the kids, goodies for the family, goodies that are put out on the ofrendas, supposedly spiritually for the spirits who come back to visit. So those are the two food items. Were there other questions you had on the videos from last week by any chance, besides those two questions I got? Sí or no?
No, see.
No? Bien?
Can
Okay.
I make a recommendation, Marilyn? This is Sam. Can I make a recommendation? My wife and I this weekend went to see the picture Coco, which is in Spanish,
Sí, sí,
fully
sí.
with English subtitles, and that's all about the Day of the Dead
It's
and how you have to remember, the ones who passed. If you don't remember them, then they go beyond and they're not available anymore. It's a great
Yeah,
film.
the big fear was not being remembered by your loved
Right.
ones. And if you were no longer remembered, you couldn't come back. Yeah. If you ever want to watch a good movie on a few streaming services, I think it is on now, Coco is a great movie that is fairly recent, within the last maybe 5 to 7 years. Ostensibly, it's an animated movie, but you can definitely get it with Spanish subtitles, which is fun to do, or in Spanish, dubbed in, either way. Bien.
Okay.
It's a very whimsical story about Dia de Muertos. Okay, so you had a couple of videos. One was about La Casa. And the other was, of course, the I hate Mexico, which she doesn't really hate Mexico. Ella es mexicana. She really is Mexican. She was being very facetious about that. Hopefully you could tell that. I'm going to have you checking out 2 more videos next week. I will send you the links in the email after class. But I do want to say that the theme for speaking next week is going to be about kind of daily routine stuff. So one is going to give a lot of routine kind of words, things that happen on a daily basis. Okay. Okay. The other thing I want to share with you is that we're going to, for some of you, this might be the first time you see them. For others of you, it might be a review of a concept, and that concept is verbos reflexivos. reflexive verbs. Reflexive verbs are a big kind of verb, a category of verb in Spanish. And we don't have a good comparison in English. We have a kind of lame comparison in English, but not following the same kind of format. Reflexive verbs in Spanish are a special category because we often, you will often hear these. And what winds up happening is that instead of just using the verb alone, like, por ejemplo, limpio, I clean, or leo, I read, o, por ejemplo, descanso, I rest, I'm not working, or trabajo, I work. Those kind of verbs, and whether you say I work or we work or however you conjugate the verb, right? Those verbs are usually used alone by themselves. Normally, people don't include the yo with trabajo or the nosotros, the we word with trabajamos. People will normally use the verb by itself because that one verb tells you what the action is, when it is happening, present or past, yeah, general, and who is doing it, right? In English, I've got to have I work. If I just say work all day, well, work all day. Who's working all day? You're working all day. We're working together all day. I'm just working all day. Yeah. My kids are working all day. You don't know unless you add the pronoun. But in Spanish, the reason they have all those verb conjugations, right? A form for I'm doing it, you're doing it, he or she is doing it, we're doing it, what we call conjugations, is that we drop those words like yo, I, or nosotros, we. We drop it. But with reflexive verbs, you do have to use a pronoun. And you can't get rid of it like yo and tú and nosotros, okay? So reflexive verbs are a special category of verbs, and in order to use these, you must use a pronoun together with that verb, all right? I will give you an example. Well, actually, let's take a look at this first. Here are the reflexive verbs. Me gets paired up with a yo verb. Te gets paired up with a tú verb, meaning that pronoun has to be in like te. You would think, oh, it looks kind of like tú, right? So it gets paired up with a tú kind of verb, a tú kind of conjugation. Se gets paired up with a he or she verb, él, ella, usted. It also, se, gets paired up with an ellos, ellas, ustedes, a they kind of verb. So se does double duty. It works for what we call third person, not talking about myself, not talking to you, but talking about somebody else, right? But it can be used for somebody else, or a group of somebody else. So we've got me for yo, te for a tú verb, se for both an él, ella, usted verb or an ellos, ellas, ustedes verb, and nos for a nosotros verb, okay? This os pronoun that is hanging out there is used only in Spain. It is the plural, os is the plural of the te, okay? In Spain, they have a plural you that is a familiar, a buddy, a friendly you that is plural. Latin America, you will never hear os, so we're not going to use os. But we will use the me, te, se, nos, and se again. Okay. And again, that me has to pair up with a yo verb, so they play nice. Yeah, they're matching kind of forms. That is how reflexive verbs work. Okay. So you've got that whole thing that tells you what kind of verb all those pronouns link up with. Okay. For example, reflexive verbs change somewhat in meaning versus a non-reflexive verb. So in the videos you've got for this coming week, you're going to see some of these, right? So, por ejemplo, mover just means to move something. Like if I'm shoving a desk out of the way because I want to vacuum under the desk, yeah? Or shove the sofa out of the way so I can vacuum under the sofa, right? That's just mover, move. But moverse means to move a body part, to move yourself, right? Me muevo talks about me doing this, or maybe dancing, yeah? Me muevo means I'm doing it to myself. Bien. And there are a whole lot of verbs that fall into this category of what we call reflexives. So I want to watch part of this video with you, but reflexive verbs can kind of move out of that explanation into something else. And that's kind of what I want to show you with the time that we have left today. Okay, so we're going to watch this together so I can kind of let you absorb that. Oop, I just want to make sure I get that on with my audio. Sí, bien. Okay. Because reflexives get a couple different.
Estoy muy feliz porque tú estás aquí. Vamos a hablar de unos verbos que son muy famosos en español, muy comunes, y son los verbos reflexivos. Pero un momento, ¿qué es verbos reflexivos? Bueno, déjame darte un ejemplo.
She's going to give you an
¿Estás
example.
lista? ¿Estás listo? En inglés, tú dices I get dressed. En español, decimos yo me visto. Me. Can you see the me? This is a reflexive verb. This video is divided into 3 sections. Number 1, real examples so you can identify the reflexive verbs. Number 2, conjugation, so you can make your own sentences in Spanish with some example of reflexive verbs. This is where I'm going to give you the tips. And number 3, how to create sentences with reflexive verbs, and sometimes how to know when you have to use a reflexive verb or how to know when you don't need to use a reflexive verb. So stay until the end of this video because you're going to understand and learn a lot.
And notice when we say in English, get dressed, do you ever in English say, I dress myself? No. Would somebody know what you meant if you said I dressed myself? Well, yes. I don't have a butler or maid to dress me. This is not Downton Abbey where you got a butler. Yeah. Or a maid, lady's maid kind of thing. Okay. So, bien. But notice in English, we have to plug in that idea of get. And sometimes that happens with some reflexive verbs, okay? It's kind of a clue for how reflexives will change in their meaning. Okay, so I'm going to fast forward here to where she stops selling stuff, which is perfectly okay, but she shows you these examples. Here are examples of how you will see reflexive verbs, and you're going to see in every one of these, they must have a little pronoun that matches up with the same form, the same kind of the verb.
Me visto. I get dressed.
Me visto. Me visto has an O at the end, so you know it's for yo. Me visto. I get dressed.
Yo me visto. Check out here. We have the pronoun me. Número 2. Yo me despierto. Yo me despierto.
I wake myself up. We don't really use the myself in English. I wake up. Yeah. But I wake up. Me despierto. Me despierto. If it was a tu verb, it would be te despiertas. If it was a we wake up, it would be nos despertamos. Bien? Okay?
Wake up.
Sí, perdón, Usha.
In this, there is a woman who is waking up, so it should be desperta.
Ah, buena pregunta. Good question. It's a woman waking up, but if the meaning is I wake up, that o ending is always o. It's not a masculine o. Like rojo, right? It's an o that is a verb ending. And o means I am doing it. And it doesn't matter if the I person is a man or a woman. Yeah. So if I wanted to say she is waking up, I would use the verb form for she, and it's an AR verb, despertarse. So it would be se despierta. But it's got an a at the end, despierta, because it's just one person doing it from an AR verb. So la mujer, the woman, yeah, we know it's a woman. La mujer se despierta, ends in an a from an AR verb. Or even if I change it to the man is waking up, it's el hombre se despierta. It would still be an a at the end, right? That o and a thing being feminine and masculine, the feminine masculine idea with o and a only happens with nouns, a thing, a place, or a person, and with descriptive words. The o and the a with verbs is totally divorced from the idea of gender. Yeah. Verb forms that end in an o mean yo, right? Verb and endings in a don't mean feminine. Verbs with an a ending mean they come from an AR verb. Make more sense? See?
Yes.
Okay, vale. Let's let her continue with a couple little more examples.
Yo me despierto, I'm performing the action to myself. I'm waking up myself, is like if we would say this. Me despierto. Número 3, ella se cansa. Ella se cansa. She gets tired.
And this idea of get is sometimes what we use in English for, it's an equivalent to what happens with what we call a reflexive verb in Spanish, right? I wake up, but I get dressed. She gets tired. That idea of gets is a good translation at times for some of these things that we call reflexive verbs. And I'll let her go on with the examples.
Se, because it's she. Don't worry, I will explain. 4, él se estresa. Tengo mucho trabajo. Él se estresa. He gets stressed out.
Okay, again, this idea of gets sometimes is a good translation for reflexives. Se estresa. Literally, he stresses himself out, but we would say they get stressed or they feel stressed. Se estresa, ¿sí?
Número 5, él se divierte. He enjoys himself. Él se divierte mucho. O yo me divierto. I enjoy myself. All this.
So those are just examples of some kinds of verbs that happen to be reflexive. Sadly, you just have to know from example what reflexive verbs are. But we'll review what some of those are. We're going to
These
let
examples
her move
that
on a
I
little
just
bit.
gave you are reflexive verbs. How do you know? Well, you already saw that they have the me or se, and this is indicating that the action is performing to oneself. I enjoy myself. Yo me divierto. Me is basically working here as myself. I get dressed. Yo me visto. The get is working as me as well. But let me explain. Entonces, ¿qué es un verbo reflexivo en español?
What is a
Es
reflexive
muy
verb?
importante. Es cuando tú haces la acción a ti mismo.
It's when you do an action, the person doing the action also receives the action. But that is poorly translated in English because we don't always in English include this idea in the way we express it as I do it to myself. You don't say I wake myself up. You say just I wake up, right? Or I get stressed out. Yeah. Or I get tired. All right. So there are different structures we use in English to express these ideas that are called reflexive verbs or reflexive actions in Spanish.
When you're performing the action to yourself. For example, I take a shower. I take a shower means that you are taking the shower. I'm taking the shower to my body. I'm doing it for myself. Yo me baño. Yo me baño. I'm not saying I am giving somebody else a shower. That should.
Okay. If you give a baby a bath because he'll drown by himself, it's bañar without the se. If your dog smells to high heaven and you got to give the dog a bath, it's just bañar, right? Bañar with no, not me baño. Me baño means I'm the one taking the bath. See? Bien? So in a nutshell, because I don't want to go too much further over because I know people have things they have to go out for. In a nutshell, that is what reflexive verbs will do. So she's going to give you a bunch of examples. Do know that the way we express those same ideas of a Spanish reflexive verb in English we use different kinds of words that we add in, not always consistently the same kind of wording. It'll be a little different in English, but in Spanish, you have to start to get familiar with that. So I'm going to give you a video to watch this week that will talk about daily routines. And some of the words, some of the verbs you're going to see are going to be reflexive. Some will not, right? Reflexive verbs aren't used 100% of the time to talk about every single thing you do during the day. They're only used for certain kinds of verbs, and you just have to like gradually get used to what those verbs are. So you'll hear some examples of that in a story type setting, but I do want you to notice where in the story she does use reflexives and where she doesn't. So we can come back and think about that a little bit more next week. See, bien?
Sí.
And I'll send you materials in the email after class that will have my little files on that and the link to this video and then some storytelling that will incorporate some of that. Todo bien? All good?
All good. Está bien.
Perfecto, perfecto, perfecto. So we're going to add that in to our toolbox, if you will. For some of that you that will be a review. For others of you that may be brand new, feel free to bring in questions for me next week as we go along. But I'll send you all the links for that stuff that you need. Bien?
Bien.
Bien.
Excelente, excelente. Entonces, sí, espero que tengan muy buena semana. I hope you have a really good week. Espero que ustedes tengan muy buena semana y nos vemos el lunes. I'll see you guys on Monday.
Thank you.
Bueno,
Ciao.
gracias.
Excelente. Fue un placer. Was a pleasure.